Hey, it's me, Ocean, again, and I wanted to talk about the other time that I almost died because there hasn't been just one, and people seem to enjoy the first one, so I figured I should probably talk about the other one. And this one happened before the previous one. I want to say, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago or something, like, not too long ago, not a year ago or anything. I set up a vacation for my job that was like going to be about 4 days. And I decided that I wanted to drive to California by myself, and it was my first ever solo road trip. I went because I wanted to see the Jordan Peterson tour, and that was the closest one to me from where I was. So I was like, well, I want to see him before, I want to see his event before I don't have a chance, you know. I planned that out months in advance. The day came. I didn't tell anybody I was going on the road trip. I was getting pretty desperate in my life at the time in terms of like I was having a lot of problems with like fear and having a really hard time overcoming fear, having a lot of negative emotion, and I was getting desperate, which is why I wanted to go see the Jordan Peterson thing. I was like, well, maybe he'll tell me something, maybe I'll hear something in person that'll click with me. I'm willing to drive the whole way. You know, the day came. I didn't tell anybody I wanted to go that I was going, and I did that for a reason because I wanted to know that I could take care of myself. I wanted to know that I had independence, that I could put myself through this what to me felt like a death mission or a defy death mission, even though it was just like a road trip or something. So I took off, and I packed some not very good food, just like a bunch of apples and a bunch of like burgers with gluten-free bread, and I didn't pack as much food as I needed, and I didn't know what I was doing, and that'll show on this journey. So it was a 19-hour drive there and back. Not super eventful for most of the drive, just like I just keep going and going and going. And I didn't understand, or I wasn't experienced with, because I'd never done a road trip by myself. I thought that I could just power through and not sleep and just keep going and going. And for a while I did that. I just kept going and going, and I remember that first feeling when I was first going, like how scary that was, the farther I got away from home. But I wanted to put myself through that. I wanted to strengthen myself and see what would come out the other end of it. So eventually it got dark. I got really tired. I started dozing off as I was driving. And I would doze off a lot. And most of the other cars that I would see, because I was getting in the middle of nowhere, were semi-trucks. These semi-trucks, they were coming in the opposite direction. And I would keep dozing off, and I would start like drifting in the direction. Then I'd catch myself drifting in the direction of them, like accidentally, because I was losing consciousness because I wasn't sleeping, and it takes a lot of energy to be able to drive. So, and the dozing off it gradually got a little bit longer, and then eventually I woke up to an impact, to a crash of sorts. Not as bad of a crash as you would expect, but I woke up at a roundabout, and I had kind of like crashed in the middle of this roundabout, hit like a sign or something, and I woke up obviously freaking out, adrenaline, like what's going on. I quickly pulled my car off to the side, saw what the damage was. My bumper was gone. I didn't know where my bumper was, so I kept driving around that area quickly to try to find my bumper. I picked up my bumper, which had my license plate on it, and I stuffed that in the back of my car. And I just wanted to make sure I got my thing that had my license plate, stuffed that in the back of my car, and then I just kept going. And I was like, well, let's hope that there's not too much damage to the car. And then because of the adrenaline boost of that impact, I was now able to stay awake. So, which is crazy, like I should have just planned it out better, because I planned it out in such a way where I didn't leave soon enough, so I had to rush, and I should have given myself more paid time off days so I wouldn't have to rush, so I'd have time to sleep at a hotel, but I didn't have time, so I was rushing. Then I just kept driving, and eventually I stopped and I tried to look and see if what the damage was to my car, and luckily, besides the bumper being off and the shell of my rear view mirror, not plastic, but the outer shell, not on the mirror side, but on the other side, had come off, and I didn't realize that was gone until later, and I left that at the scene. And the place where it happened, it was like in the middle of nowhere, so there was just nobody around but me, and it was just like this weird roundabout thing in the middle of nowhere. I checked it out, and luckily, the only thing that was disconnected that was damaged was my windshield wiper fluid thing. That was the only thing that was damaged, so I didn't have any windshield wiper fluid, and I never used that anyways before that happened. I use it now because now I'm more aware of that I have it after I got it repaired later. But so I realized, okay, that's the only thing, and it drove completely fine for the rest of the trip. I just got really lucky that it only damaged like some minor things, so I was still able to go on the trip, still able to drive the rest of the way there, and eventually I made it to Inglewood, Los Angeles, and I booked a motel when I got there, and I was really like excited to like, wow, I'm staying in a motel by myself for the first time, like I've never done this before, never gone on a trip by myself before, and so it was a very fun experience, and it was like not the most amazing hotel, but it was nice enough and it was clean, so I was having a good time. I got to like watch TV and stuff, got to go to bed, and yeah, I woke up, just watched YouTube and stuff before going to bed, and it was a really fun and gratifying experience for me in the long run. And so when I woke up, I got ready, and I eventually went to the Jordan Peterson tour thing, and because I'm misremembering that. No, it's what actually happened was. Oh, yep. See, I remember. This is what actually happened. See, I planned this so poorly that I actually arrived at the same day that the Jordan Peterson thing was going to happen. So I misremembered that detail. So I still hadn't had any sleep, pretty much. And I still went to the thing on the day of, and I could barely stay awake because the stadium was so dark besides the stage. I didn't get to comprehend as much of it as I wanted to anyway, so I really should have planned it out better because I was really struggling to stay awake, But I still enjoyed what I could hear, what I was conscious for. Then I went back to the motel. I went to sleep after watching like some YouTube, woke up the next morning. I got some coffees for the road and some snacks and stuff, and then I took off. I took my time a little bit more on the way back. I eventually passed this Western cinema museum, and I went in there, and it was a really interesting place. They had the I don't know if anybody's familiar with the movie Tremors. I know people are. People know that movie, but if you're familiar with the movie Tremors, I got to see some of the little miniature set pieces from that, and I got to see other things. I got to see a bunch of John Wayne Lone Ranger stuff, and it was cool. I spent probably like an hour in there because I was eager to get home, and I drove the rest of the way. Like, you get to a point where, like, there's no service, there's SOS stuff where, like, there's no service on your phone. There's no power lines, there's no lights. The only thing you see are, like, semi-trucks coming in the opposite direction, and you can see on the times where I stopped on the side of the road, I don't remember why, but there are times that I did that. You just see the stars, and there's a lot more stars out there in the middle of nowhere than there are back home in city-ish areas. And there's just layers and layers of stars, just way more than you ever usually see. And there were a lot of weird things that I encountered. Like, one time there was one part where I was driving and it was the middle of nowhere, but there was randomly like this geyser type thing that looked like it was like spewing out from a pipe that was like spewing out in an arch, and it got onto my car and it didn't behave like water, so I don't know what it was, and it was coming out of the ground and it was like sticking to my windshield and I could barely see anything on my windshield the next day. And I think like maybe it might have rained later on and maybe cleaned it off and then I could see better. I don't remember that part, but it was very strange. And I made my way home and I kept getting coffees from McDonald's and food from McDonald's to keep myself awake. And when I started to get tired again, maybe like I want to say 2 or 3 hours away from home, I was starting to get just as tired as I was when I passed out and crashed the car. And I was like, oh, I can't let this happen again. I got to stop at a McDonald's, get a coffee, get an Egg McMuffin, which I did. And I was just barely conscious enough to make it home safely. It was a very different experience for me, like mentally, like how I felt when I got home. I felt like the world was really small, and I felt a lot more of my emotions than I usually feel. And I'm usually a lot of times distanced from some of my more tender emotions. And for like a day or two, when I came back, like the high of the trip, I felt a lot of the emotions that usually a lot of times feel alien to me, or like not alien, but I don't feel as closely connected with those emotions. And I felt like all of them at once, and it was like almost too much. And the longer I was home, the more I went back to normal, and I got a little bit more numb again. And I got my car repaired, and it's all fine now. And after that whole thing, I told people about the trip. I told my mom about it. My mom was like, don't do that again. Don't you ever do that again. And I told my brother and stuff like that. But again, the reason why I didn't tell anybody is because I was feeling really desperate because I was trying so hard to face my fears, and I was failing. I wasn't able to overcome them. And I wanted to just do something crazy, just, throwing stuff at the wall, like see what sticks. I wanted to just do something crazy to see if I could like break myself out of that, and just turn myself into something else, like put myself on a death mission or whatever in my eyes. Because again, there were times when there was no service, and if my car would have stuck, I would have had to like flag somebody down and say, hey, can you help me? Because there were a lot of points where like for a couple hours or something there was just absolutely no service, and it said SOS on my phone. And I just kept going because I just wanted to know that I could make it, and like I needed to know that. I felt like in my mind, I felt as though if I didn't make it, then I wasn't supposed to, and if I did make it, I was supposed to, and I did make it, which it's strange that I thought that way, because I feel like I don't believe in signs most of the time, but I felt like I had to have a reason to keep going at the time. And I'm much happier now in general. I've had like things have been getting better for me, but I was feeling very desperate and very low and very just at the end of my rope at that time. But things have really changed for me in the past just like couple of weeks, like just conversations I've had and things like that. And lately, and like little things I'm changing with like work and stuff like that. And since I've made a couple of those little changes, I feel very happy and very positive about my life, and I feel like it's going to continue to get better. But that was a big reason why I went on that trip, is because I felt so hopeless about the future, and I felt like I needed to just really try to destroy myself mentally to survive and overcome my fears and stuff. But anyways, that's the whole story of that, and I'm really glad that I did it in hindsight, because it's a good story, and I forgot to say too, but when I got in the car crash, I think I hit my head, and I just didn't realize, because I had this lump on my head that went away later. I don't know if I was concussed or not, but I didn't go to the hospital for it, so I'm fine now. But but anyways, I just wanted to talk about that, because it's I kind of look back on it fondly. It was a very like cool type of adventure, and it's ironic because I've gotten to the point where I'm kind of more content with like the little things. I don't feel like I need to do that type of crazy stuff as much anymore to feel like I'm alive. I just enjoy a lot of the little simple moments and stuff. So, anyways, yeah, I just wanted to share that, and hope you enjoyed it. Leave a subscribe, a like, or whatever if you enjoyed, and have a good day. Bye bye.